Hey guys, welcome back to Falcon Central Radio, part of the Pro Football Central Radio Network. I'm your host, Aaron Freeman, joined as usual by my co-host, Matt Carrolley. Today we are joined by none other than former Falcons wide receiver Brian Finneran, a 12-year veteran, a fan favorite, and certainly near and dear to my co-host Matt's heart as a Villanova alum. You can catch Brian on 680 The Fan on weekdays every day on the Front Row Show. Now that we have him here, we're going to talk Falcons football tonight. And welcome back to the show, Brian.
Yeah, happy to be here again. I always enjoy talking to you guys.
So, Brian, our first question is sort of one of the big topics this offseason heading into the season. The Falcons are looking to be a lot more physical football team in 2019. That's been reflected in their offseason moves, their coaching changes. I'm curious sort of where your thoughts on whether or not you feel confident that the Falcons will be able to accomplish that goal based off of those moves. And also sort of curious, what are your thoughts on sort of the parallels between what the Falcons are trying to accomplish with being more physical in 2019 to a previous goal by the former coaching staff and Mike Smith back in 2014?
So bringing in some different coaches, Dirk Cutter. I think when you think about Dirk Cutter as an offensive coordinator, you almost go right to passing the ball because he had so much success at different places doing that, especially here with Matt Ryan, when Matt's really started to open it up after Mike Smith was gone. But Dirk has had some success running the football as well. And I think his first year in Tampa, they may have been top 5 in the league rushing the ball. So they'll bring that aspect as well. When you go out and get guards like Jamon Brown and Carpenter, a couple of veteran guys that are 320, 340, you already tell the mindset has changed big time for this football team. And then you go out and pick 2 first-round picks, Chris Lindstrom and Caleb McGarry. You expect big things out of your offensive line, and you expect a change in mentality as well. And I think that biggest change a lot of people haven't been talking about is Mike Mularkey, who was our offensive coordinator in 2008 through, as long as I was here, through my last year in 2010, maybe 11. And then I think Dirk Cutter came in 12, if I'm not mistaken. So when Mike Mularkey got here in 2008, Michael Turner was our bell cow. And we had Harvey Dahl and Tyson Clabo and Justin Blaylock, some just maulers up front on the offensive line, where that mentality was evident from day one. But they protected their quarterback, who was a rookie first-round draft pick, number 3 overall, Matt Ryan, in 2008. So I think the parallel you can draw from that is they're not necessarily going to go back to ground and pound because Matt's so good at distributing the ball now that he's such a good, smart veteran quarterback. But you have the ability to do both effectively. And I think Mike Mularkey, who's the new tight end coach, who's been an NFL head coach and offensive coordinator, he's been all over the place, but he brings that mentality to the tight end position. But he'll also bring it to meetings. He'll bring it to game planning. And I think Mike Mularkey is the key kind of cog to getting this offense running with Devontae Freeman back healthy, a plethora of offensive linemen to choose from outside of Alex Mack and Jake Matthews, and let's see what happens with those guys. I absolutely agree with what you're talking about as far as getting more physical and bigger up front and making it work.
So, Brian, we touched on the coaching staff changes there. And, when Dan Quinn makes, the move to clear house, so to speak, with, firing Steve Sarkisian, taking the reins over the defense as the defensive coordinator, firing Keith Armstrong as a special teams coach, you kind of feel like he's putting this season all on him. It's all or nothing. Do you get those vibes that this is kind of a make or break season for the team? And do you think that Quinn and company can endure another playoff-less season? Or do you think, if they do miss the playoffs, Arthur Blank's going to clean house in 2020?
No, it's a good question. It really is. And it's such a tough business to be a part of. Every single year is make or break for the team itself. I remember playing, I played 12 years and I was fighting tooth and nail for every single snap and play and moment I get on the football field, and I stretched it into a 12-year career. So every single snap and every single play and every single season is do or die for the team itself. But I think you're absolutely onto something when you talk about Dan Quinn taking the onus on himself, especially with his defense. He's pretty much going to be the defensive coordinator this year. Marquand Manuel did a nice job the last couple of years, but couldn't quite get enough out of the special players that they had on this team, or they think they had on this team. And Dan Quinn thinks he can do that in a better way. I don't disagree. The success Dan Quinn had in Seattle with the Seahawks and the type of defense they ran was very, very impressive. Now, I'll tell you this. We don't have the same players they had in Seattle, unfortunately. I was just looking at our defensive roster and what it could look like when training camp is over. And there's nothing about that defense that scares me as an offensive player. Yeah, Keanu O'Neal is a thumper in the middle, but he's coming off ACL, I believe. Ricardo Allen's a nice guy off the hash, but he's coming off Achilles, or vice versa. The guys that I don't have to deal with are the Grady Jarrett's of the world, who's a nice player on the interior, that's very effective, but by himself, he doesn't scare you. Unless Tack McKinley and Vic Beasley have huge years, this team's going to struggle defensively. And I think if they can get in the top 10, top 12, as far as points given up, this team has a shot to go really far in the postseason. And that all is on Dan Quinn now, because he took the onus as far as defensive coordinator, calling the defense, getting those guys and taking guys like Vic Beasley and Tack McKinley under his wing and making sure they produce this year. So, yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that's just the nature of the beast. This year is to make or break for Dan Quinn.
Well, it's interesting, Brian, that you mentioned Vic Beasley, because one of the questions I wanted to ask you was recent weeks, recent months, there's been a lot of talk from various members of the local media and among the fan base, sort of making waves with certain players, including Vic Beasley, not necessarily showing up for voluntary workouts. As a former player, I'm curious sort of what are your thoughts on the whole voluntary workout thing, and sort of do you feel that attendance is a critical aspect of the offseason for all players?
Yeah, for sure. I'm a big proponent of showing up in the offseason. You get plenty of time off to go enjoy your family, take vacations, and do what you need to do. I think they literally have 10 or 11 OTAs, which are all voluntary. Then you have your 3-day mini camp, and you have your off-season workouts. I mean, it's not that hard to be there. I understand these guys have their routines, but when you're kind of, especially for Vic, it bothered me that he wasn't there, because this is a make or break year for Vic and for this team, and he plays a big role for the defense. He's a guy that has the athleticism, the size, the strength, the power to be super effective as a defensive end getting after the quarterback. And it bothered me that he wasn't there working with Dan Quinn, who stuck his neck out for him, signed him to that 5th-year option, who's making over $12 million in 1 year, and getting after it. So did it bother me? Yes. Is it the end of the world? No. But I think it goes a long way with your teammates, with the organization, your coaching staff, and ownership, if you show up for those things and show them you want to be there and be a part of it. And you can work with those guys. And listen, OTAs, as you guys are aware of, it's just like jerseys and helmets. So it's not like you're running guys over or tackling people or anything else. You're just working on skill set and everything else. So that can be done somewhere else. But for me, the guy that was fighting and grinding and trying to make a team, I had to be a company man. And so I had to show up and make sure they knew I was there and I wanted to be there. In Vic Beasley's case, it wasn't the same. He's guaranteed 12.9 or whatever it is, and he understands the situation. And as long as he stays in shape and improves this year, he gets after the quarterback and sneaks up on double-digit sacks, then we'll forget that he wasn't at OTAs.
So I want to take the conversation to a little bit of a lighter tone. It's been relatively a quiet month as far as news goes on the Falcons front, but a couple weeks ago we did get a bit of good news with the announcement that, Brian, your former teammate Roddy White will be inducted into the Falcons Ring of Honor in December. And I'm just curious, is there anything we might not know about Roddy, or is there a funny story or, one of your favorite stories maybe you can share about him during your time as a teammate with Roddy?
So Roddy and I had I guess it was a hate-love relationship, because it started out a little bitter. I saw him come in as a rookie in 2005, I think it was, from UAB, University of Alabama, Birmingham, and he just thought his bleep didn't stink, and he felt super comfortable as a first-round pick, that he was going to be the man and everything else. But he didn't put the time and effort and energy into studying and working on the field like he should have. And it drove me crazy as at the time, 6-year vet, seeing so much talent in his body and his skill set and speed and size and strength and everything else, and watching him just half-ass his way through meetings and not study like he was supposed to and sleep during special teams or whatever it was that just drove me nuts. I just couldn't take it. So I wrote him hard and made sure he knew, because I was kind of the leader in the receiver room at the time. And I was the guy that kept our fine book. Back in the early 2000s, we were able to still find each other in our meeting rooms. So if you dropped a pass or had a mental error or had a loaf on the field when we go back and watch practice, then we would chalk it up to a fine, $10 here, $5 there, $20 here, depending on what it was. And Roddy, by a long shot, led the team in fines week in and week out, which was nice for us because we went to dinner on him most of the time, every quarter, or every month we went out. So it was frustrating. But as he grew and as he learned and as he became a better football player and a smarter football player, he probably surpassed not only me, but just about everybody on that team as far as film watching, studying, learning what the DBs did, understanding route concepts and changes and blitzes and defensive concepts. That's why he was so good for so long, because it finally clicked. And when it clicked, he just got it. And he studied so hard and so much. So there was a 2-year learning curve for Roddy. But once he got it, he was as special as it gets. And for him to get the honor of being in the Falcons Ring of Honor, it was really, really special and fun for me to see that happen. And I'll be at the game. I think it's Carolina, maybe in December this year coming up.
Yep.
That he'll be recognized in the Ring of Honor. So super happy for him. I think when they did it, I think the Falcons put out a video, and it was Matt and Michael Jenkins, and they were talking about, if you guys watching it or not, but they talked about in that moment, and both of them were on the same page, because Matt just brought it up briefly, and then Roddy finished the story where Matt would throw a deep pass to Roddy, and Roddy would drop a post, go into the end zone or whatever, and it was almost a good sign, because week after week after week, he'd have a bad play or drop something in practice, and that same week he'd have a touchdown or a huge play for us in a game. So Roddy was a gamer, and there's no question about it, and he's still a special friend and one of my best friends I have here in town, and I love hearing from him and seeing him, and super happy that he got that honor.
Brian, I'm curious, as someone who's spent over a decade playing for the Falcons, if Arthur Blank came to you and was like, Brian, who should be the next guy in the Falcons Ring of Honor now that Roddy is in? Like, who would you tell Arthur Blank, like, you got to get this guy in right now? Who's the sort of the next guy on your sort of wish list at the top, who you want to see in that Ring of Honor?
So Todd McClure would be the first guy that jumps out at me. He was the captain of our offense, captain of our football team, such a smart football player, undersized, came in his rookie year, I think in 99 maybe, and tore his ACL, and then played the next 13, 14 years pretty much as our starting center. And to play that position, you got to be smart, you got to be physical, you got to be cerebral, you have to be a great team player. I mean, there's so much that goes into that position because you fix so many different things at the line of scrimmage. So Todd McClure is a consummate pro. And if there's anybody that goes in next, it needs to be Todd. It's not a sexy position. It's not a guy that stands out throughout the course of games. But ask any quarterback that got under center with Todd McClure, and they'll rave about him and tell you how good he was. And one of my favorite teammates and an unbelievable football player. Just so much fun to be around. So Todd McClure, hands down, should be the next guy that's on that list.
So my final question for you, Brian, before we get you out of here, this was a story that recently came out on the Falcons website. So I got to ask you, since you were there at the time, did Matt Ryan really tell Roddy White to go get this mother bleeper the first time he stepped into the huddle with the ones in practice? And if so, what was your reaction when that happened?
Yeah, I'm sure he did. Absolutely. It's so Matt looks like the All-American boy and says all the right things when he's in front of the microphone or the media, but he's just like you and me, and he's as competitive as it gets, and he's got a mouth like a sailor at practice, and he's not afraid to get on guys. And that's grown throughout the course of his tenure with the Falcons, because his first few years when I was there, to come in as a rookie and start right away is super hard at the quarterback position in the NFL. And I don't want to say he was a little bit timid, but to watch him grow into what he's become now as far as a coach on the field and a commander of the huddle, which he commanded when he got there, but it's even more in depth now. And he knows everything he needs to know, and he studies so hard. So, yeah, Matt has done that multiple times, and he'll continue to do it throughout the course of his career. When he knows a play's coming or he sees a certain defense and he understands what's coming in front of him. So it's like when you saw that play where, God, I can't remember who we were playing. I wasn't on the team at the time, but I was definitely watching. And Matt looked out to his right, and it was Sanu and Julio Jones, and Julio was still bouncing around on the right side of the formation. And he said, "Get bleeping set." And he screamed it loud as day. And he's serious, man. Serious as a heart attack when game time's on, and he doesn't miss his words at all. He chooses and goes. So he's really good. But he's just if you have good teammates like those guys that we've all talked about, and even Roddy White, he's an all-state wrestler in state of South Carolina as a high school wrestler, and I knew that. And my youngest son started wrestling when he was about 8 or 9, and I said, "Roddy, come over and work with Cohen a little bit." And he came over to the house, and him and my youngest boy are on the ground showing him moves and different things like that. So our relationship goes deep, and he's just one of my best friends. Those three guys, between Matt and Todd and Roddy, I was lucky to play with all of them.
Well, Brian, we appreciate you coming on and sharing some of these memories and sharing some of your insights into the Falcons' upcoming season. We look forward to the next opportunity we get to chat with you. And go ahead and plug anything that you want to plug. I know you want to plug your radio show and whatnot, as well as your Twitter and anything else. But, yeah, we appreciate you coming on tonight.
Yeah, no doubt. I appreciate you guys having me. If anybody's listening out there and can download our radio station, 680 The Fan. You can get it anywhere in the world, 680thefan.com. Download our app at 680thefan.com. And we're on early in the morning, 6 to 9. So if you get up, you make this your alarm clock, and we have a good time. We're not all sports all the time, and we have a good time. We laugh a lot. And sometimes I wish we'd do more football talk like this. So it's fun to talk to you guys and get into some different things that I haven't talked about in a while. And I look forward to talking to you guys next. And anybody wants to check me out on Twitter or Instagram, it's at BFin86. And let's hope the Falcons have a great year, man. We need to make the postseason and see if we can't make a little run here.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
Right. Thanks, Brian. Really appreciate it.
Thanks again, man.
All right. Thank you guys for having me once again. Look forward to next time.
Have a good night.
Absolutely.
Later.